Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something kind of controversial?
Oh, yeah, this should be fun.
So today we're looking at this idea that competition,
Hmm.
well, that it might actually be holding you back.
Holding you back.
Really?
I know, right? Sounds crazy.
It does go against everything we're told, right? Like,
Totally, like crush the competition.
right,
Be
exactly.
the best, be the first.
Got to be number one.
So so we're diving into this excerpt from Grant Cardone, and he's like, forget competition.
He says what?
Aim for total market domination.
Whoa, hold on now.
Right. Like, what does that even mean?
I mean, we're so used to healthy competition, this and innovate to compete, that it's like,
It's everywhere.
it's everywhere,
Yeah.
practically ingrained in us,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So to hear like competition is for sissies, it's like, wait a minute.
What?
It.
It definitely makes you stop and think.
Yeah.
And Cardone doesn't just like throw this out there.
Yeah.
He like lays out a whole case for it.
Well, and it's not, as out there as it might sound at first.
I mean, when you think about like classic business strategies, right? Like differentiation,
Yeah.
creating a product or service that's truly unique.
Uh-huh.
Or you think about building a competitive advantage, doing something better than anyone else.
Okay. Yeah.
It starts to make sense, you know? Like instead of just trying to keep up space, you're aiming to completely own your space.
Right. So instead of being like one of many,
Yeah.
you're the one.
You're the only one.
All right. So how do you actually do that?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
Cardone talks about these only practices, things that other companies just won't do.
Give me an example. I got it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So he uses this example of a dental implant company.
Oh, have you heard this one?
Oh, yeah. It's a classic Cardone story. So
Okay.
instead of waiting for clients to come back for follow-up appointments,
Right.
they decided to call them like as they were driving out of the parking lot. Seriously. Like, hey, yeah. Go. No more like, hey, we just thought of something else that could really benefit you. Swing back in for a minute.
And people did that.
And get this. It worked. People actually turned their cars around and went back in. You can see why this story resonates with Cardone, right? He's all about that bold, persistent approach.
It's like they tapped into some kind of psychological hack.
Right.
Like by creating this sense of urgency, they bypass people's usual resistance.
Yeah.
But I mean, wouldn't that get annoying after a while?
It could, for sure.
Yeah.
But think about it this way.
Right.
What if, instead of annoying, it actually showed that this company really cared?
Okay.
Like they were so invested in your success that they couldn't even wait for you to get home to offer more help.
Right.
It's definitely a risky move.
Yeah.
But, when you break it down, it's actually pretty clever.
So it's not just about doing something different. It's about doing something different that actually adds value for the customer.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. It's about finding those gaps in customer experience, the things that your competitors overlook
Huh.
or are too afraid to try, and then using those gaps to create something truly remarkable.
Okay. I like that.
Think about companies like Apple or IBM.
Oh, right. They didn't just compete.
No.
They became like synonymous with their whole product categories.
Exactly. You say smartphone, you think iPhone.
Yeah.
You say computer. Well, back in the day, you thought IBM.
Right, right.
But how did they get there?
Yeah.
It's not just luck, right? It's about creating a brand experience that's so strong, so consistent,
Yeah.
that it becomes the default choice for customers.
Hmm.
It's that first in mind, first in choice idea, but taken to the extreme.
Okay, so if we're not Apple or IBM, if we don't have millions to throw around,
Right.
are we just out of luck?
That's the question, isn't
Yeah,
it?
can we still achieve this kind of dominance?
Cardone would say absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's a big believer in the idea that you can dominate through sheer effort. He talks about how he used social media to build his own brand. He'd post like 10 times a day,
Wow.
way more than anyone else in his field.
That's a lot of content. Did people think he was nuts?
Oh, for sure. Some people definitely thought he was overdoing it.
Yeah.
But you know what? It worked.
Really?
All that posting, even if it drew some mockery, made him impossible to ignore.
So even if you don't have a massive budget, you can still dominate your space just by outworking everyone else.
So that's the idea.
That's kind of inspiring, actually.
Right. And it really ties into modern marketing, too.
Mm-hmm.
You see all these experts talking about content creation, audience engagement, building a strong online presence.
Right.
It all comes back to this idea of consistent effort, of showing up day after day and putting in the work.
Okay, but how do you even come up with that much stuff to post about?
Right.
And how do you find the time to do it all?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Cardone talks about this idea of 10x thinking.
Wait, 10x? Like times 10.
Times 10.
What does that even mean?
It means you set goals that are 10 times bigger than what you think is achievable.
Okay.
And then you take 10 times the amount of action you think is necessary to reach those goals.
So
Basically, you throw out all your preconceived notions of what's possible and just go for it.
Okay. I'm definitely going to need some help wrapping my head around that one. It sounds kind of intense.
It is, but that's the point.
Yeah.
It's about breaking through those mental barriers we all have.
Okay.
Those little voices in our heads that tell us we can't do something, that it's too much, that it's not realistic.
So it's like instead of just trying to edge out the competition, you're trying to completely obliterate any limitations you've set for yourself.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
Start thinking bigger, taking bolder actions, and achieving results you never thought were possible. It's not just about working harder, though. It's about working smarter, too. Remember those only practices we were talking about?
Oh, yeah. The stuff that nobody else is doing, like that dental implant company calling people as they're driving away.
Right, exactly.
Like, I get that it worked for them, but how do you even find your own only practice? That feels like the hardest part.
Right. It's not like there's a manual for this stuff.
No.
But that's also what makes it so powerful.
Okay.
It's about really understanding your industry, your customers, what makes you different.
Uh-huh.
It's about looking for those opportunities that everyone else is missing.
Okay.
Or maybe even dismissing.
Like maybe everyone's focused on online marketing, so you go all in on personalized handwritten notes.
Yeah.
Or everyone's offering free shipping, but you offer same-day delivery in your city.
Exactly. You're thinking like Cardone. Now it's about challenging the status quo, asking what if.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to experiment.
I like that.
He has another example in the book about a company that completely flipped the script on customer follow-up.
Ooh, tell me more.
So instead of waiting for customers to come back, they actually encouraged them to leave the store.
What?
But then immediately bombarded them with calls, texts, voicemails, urging them to come back in because there was something they absolutely had to see.
That sounds kind of pushy, even desperate.
Yeah, it definitely walks a fine line.
Yeah.
But the crazy part is it worked.
Really?
Almost half the customers came back right away, and a lot of them ended up buying something.
So they basically created their own urgency.
Yes.
It's like they hacked the whole customer journey.
Exactly, and that's what Cardone is driving at.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding those weak points in the traditional way of doing things and turning them into your advantage.
Hmm.
And it's not just about being different, it's about being better.
Okay.
You have to make sure your only practice actually adds value for the customer.
Okay, so it's got to be something that genuinely benefits people, not just a gimmick to get attention that makes sense.
Right.
But isn't there a risk of going too far? Like, where's the line between being persistent and being a total pest?
It's a good question, and it's something you have to be really mindful of.
Yeah.
But Cardone's point is that you can't be afraid to push boundaries if you want to make an impact. You have to be willing to stand out, even if it means ruffling a few feathers along the way.
It's like to be noticed, you have to be a little bit unignorable, but in a good way.
Right. You can't dominate if you don't penetrate, and you won't penetrate by using reasonable levels of activity.
Whoa.
It's a delicate balance, but you have to be willing to play the game.
So how do you figure out that balance? How do you know if you're being bold or just being annoying?
Well, it comes back to understanding your audience and what they value. You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes and ask, would I appreciate this? Would this make me want to do business with this company?
So it's not just about what you think is cool or innovative. It's about what actually resonates with your customers. That's a good reality check.
Right. And it might take some trial and error.
Yeah.
You might try something that you think is brilliant and it falls flat.
Right.
That's okay. It's all part of the process. The key is to learn from your mistakes. Keep experimenting and never stop looking for those only practices that will set you apart.
You know, Cardone also talks a lot about being first in mind. What does he mean by that exactly?
He's talking about becoming the go-to, the automatic choice in your field.
Okay.
The brand that people think of instantly when they need what you offer.
Like Kleenex for tissues or Google for search engines.
Exactly. You want to be so synonymous with your category that people use your brand name as a verb.
Wow.
That's the kind of mindshare Cardone is talking about.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually get there? I mean, those are some pretty big brands you just mentioned.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It takes consistent branding, high-quality products or services, excellent customer service, but it also takes those only practices we were talking about. You have to do something to really stand out from the crowd to create an experience that people remember and talk about.
So it's not just about being loud, it's about being memorable.
Yeah.
It's about creating a brand experience that people actually want to be a part of.
Exactly. It's about building a brand that people not only recognize, but also trust, admire, and aspire to be associated with. That's how you become first in mind.
All right, but let's be real. Not everyone can be Apple or Google. What about those of us who are just starting out or working with limited resources? Can we still play this game?
Absolutely. Cardone would argue that even if you don't have a massive budget, you can still outwork and outsmart the competition.
Okay.
He's a big believer in using social media to build your brand, even if you have limited resources.
It's like he's saying, don't let a lack of resources be an excuse for inaction.
Exactly. He's all about taking action, even if it's imperfect, even if you're not sure what you're doing.
Hmm.
It's about showing up every day and putting in the work, even when it's hard, even when you're not seeing results.
So it's about consistency and not giving up, even when it feels like you're not making progress. I like that.
And it's about being resourceful.
Okay.
Cardone talks a lot about finding creative ways to leverage the tools and platforms that are available to you, even if you're not spending a fortune on advertising.
So it's about working smarter, not just harder, thinking outside the box and finding those unconventional solutions.
Right, and that's where the real innovation often happens when you're forced to be creative, to think differently. You often come up with ideas that wouldn't have emerged if you had unlimited resources. It's like that saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Totally. And there are so many free or low-cost tools available now. Anyone with an internet connection can start building a brand and reaching their audience, so there really are no excuses.
That's Cardone's whole philosophy in a nutshell. No excuses. Take massive action, push beyond your comfort zone, and never give up.
Oh.
He's all about that go for it attitude, that unwavering belief in your ability to achieve greatness.
And that brings us back to that 10x thinking idea, right? Aiming for goals that are 10 times bigger than what you think is possible. But how do you even wrap your head around that? It sounds so overwhelming.
It can be, for sure,
Yeah.
but that's also the beauty of it. It forces you to think bigger, to break free from those self-imposed limitations that are holding you back.
So it's not just about setting bigger goals, it's about expanding your whole vision of what's possible.
Exactly. And even if you don't hit that 10x target, you'll still achieve far more than if you had set your sights on something smaller, something more realistic. It's like aiming for the moon and landing among the stars.
I love that analogy. Even if you don't reach your ultimate goal, you'll still end up somewhere extraordinary. But how do you even begin to set a 10x goal? Where do you even start?
It starts with identifying your current limitations, those beliefs that are holding you back. Maybe you think you don't have enough time, money, or resources, or maybe you're afraid of failure or of what people will think.
So it's like you have to identify the things that are stopping you from even considering a 10x goal in the first place.
Exactly. Once you've identified those limitations, you can start to challenge them. Ask yourself, what if those limitations didn't exist? What would be possible then?
Wow, that's powerful. It's like you're giving yourself permission to dream bigger, to think beyond what you've always believed was possible.
And that's where the real magic happens. When you break free from those self-imposed limitations and start operating at a 10x level, you tap into a level of creativity, energy, and focus that you never knew you possessed.
So it's not just about setting bigger goals, it's about becoming a bigger version of yourself in the process.
Exactly. 10x thinking is a catalyst for personal and professional growth.
Yeah.
It challenges you to evolve, to innovate, and to constantly push the boundaries of what you believe is possible.
It's about embracing a mindset of continuous improvement and striving for excellence in everything you do. It's like this 10x thinking is about way more than just like increasing your sales targets or whatever. It's about this whole mindset shift.
It really is. It's about recognizing that you are capable of so much more than you think, and then taking massive action to make those possibilities a reality.
So instead of getting caught up in comparing yourself to others, you're basically competing against your own self-doubt.
Yeah,
It's about pushing past those limiting beliefs and seeing how far you can really go.
that's a great way to put it. It's about realizing that you're not competing against others, you're competing against yourself, against your own limitations and your own fears.
So it's like shifting the focus from external validation to internal drive, from trying to beat others to trying to become the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And that's where the true fulfillment lies.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground here today, from only practices to 10x thinking, and that whole competition is for sissies thing.
It's a lot to process.
It is. So what are the key takeaways here? What do we really want listeners to remember from this deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is the power of mindset.
Okay.
Whether you fully embrace Cardone's approach or not, he makes a strong point. Success starts with believing in your ability to achieve it.
So it's about having the courage to think big, to take risks, and to never stop pushing yourself to grow and evolve,
Exactly.
and not being afraid to stand out, even if it makes some people uncomfortable.
Right? It's about adopting a mindset of abundance possibility and unwavering determination, and then backing that mindset up with consistent action.
And maybe most importantly, recognizing that you don't have to play by everyone else's rules.
That's good.
You can create your own path, your own only practices, and build something truly unique.
Exactly. Your real goal should be to dominate your own potential and create something extraordinary, not just for the sake of beating the competition, but for the sake of becoming the best version of yourself.
So as we wrap up, here's a question for you to ponder. What's your only practice? What's something you can do that others in your field wouldn't even consider? It's time to step up, take action, and make your mark on the world.
Don't be afraid to be bold. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Go out there and dominate.